Good evening, and thank you all for inviting me here for this most pleasant task that I can think of, and to introduce your 2021 WX Woman of the Year. Let me begin by paying tribute to all of you and the WX Women in Real Estate, Executive Women in Real Estate, by providing support and programming and what we heard, professional development and scholarships for women in your industry. You are, in effect, strengthening the entire sector, because let's make sure your ranks are the ones who are most invested in vibrant and sustained neighborhoods and communities, diverse communities throughout the city. So congratulations to you. I want to begin with a very brief story. It's a hard crowd to control, so I'm not going to say it's anything but a brief story, but it relates to our honoree, and it'll come back to that. I did start my career actually in Washington, D.C., and working in Congress. And when I came, D.C. is a company town of sorts, and everybody only talks about politics. They talk business politics, they talk personal politics, gossip politics. But when I got to New York, I realized very few people actually cared much about politics in the sense of talking incessantly about it. Everyone talked about real estate. Where they lived and what schools were near where they lived, how large or small their homes were, what new neighborhoods were on the rise, on the decline. I was totally out of my conversational league. I couldn't even answer the most basic defining question a New Yorker has to know: what is the square footage of your apartment? I would go home and pace out and say, it's small, I'm not going to go there. So it didn't take me long to realize that real estate and its attendant handmaidens, land use and zoning, were going to be major issues that I needed to be educated about, especially as I took over the government and public relations job for an institution with a real estate portfolio, depending on how you count and what point you want to make, is about 15 million square feet. And that's where Elise Wagner came in. My teacher, my counselor, my Sherpa, my colleague in arms, and then my friend. She taught me everything I know, but thankfully she always knew gobs more, and more than most. I think all of you in this room would agree, which is why she's getting this award. In a career that now spans 4 decades, started, it's okay if I say that, isn't it? I know, I never know. On the other hand, you couldn't get these many people but in a career, decade-spanning career, starting with Tufo and Zuccotti, then Paul Hastings, and since the mid-1990s with Kramer Levin, Naftalis, and Frankel, Elise has helped move forward a long and impressive list of major construction, renovation, and development projects for the leading eds and meds in the city, thank you very much, the cultural and entertainment venues, commercial clients, affordable housing advocates, and now icons on the landscape like the Shed. This audience knows the mix of skills you need that record attests to, that you need to be able to have that list of accomplishments. It's just not knowing the rules and regulations, Talmudic as they are, in complexity and obscurity, if not spiritual guidance, I have learned. But the role calls for understanding a client, their needs, their parameters, financial and legal parameters, the prevailing political climate, and forging a web of relationships and networks built over the years, usually on a foundation, and in Elise's case, always on a foundation of mutual trust and reciprocity. And that is all in Elise's wheelhouse. Her work for NYU has helped our university and others throughout the city, but I'll focus on the one I know. We are prominent, but we're large and space-starved, and she has helped us realize many of our academic dreams, because that's the point of a university. It's not to just do real estate for the sake of real estate. It is to be vital to our mission and to be able to advance it. And Elise always understood that. Now, I think some of the insight came, probably, from her being an alumna of our law school, joined here by several other distinguished of our law school. But I also think it had something to do with her DNA. Speaking of DNA, my love and support to your family, Robin and your daughters. So nice to see you here. Because Elisa's father was a longtime and distinguished professor at Sarah Lawrence. And, you know, she got it. She understood the academic environment. We are a very quirky lot. And somehow it never turned her off because she could channel her father, I think, and it made a huge, huge difference. So throughout those years, stop with the decades, and projects I spoke of, Elise has not only had a hand in transforming the physical landscape of the city. Along the way, she's accumulated quite an array of awards and encomia. But I know this particular honor is very special to her, very special. And so, again, a tribute to you and recognizing her. I know it's close to her heart, and I'm so glad we can gather tonight in person to pay tribute and to celebrate her. So, my friends, I'm honored on your behalf to introduce this year's recipient of the 2021 WX Woman of the Year, Elise Wagner.
Thank you. So I will admit it is intimidating to look around the room and see all of your expectant faces and to imagine all of the expectant faces of the people who are participating virtually in this event. I do a lot of public speaking as a land use lawyer, but this is a big crowd. However, I feel calm in comparison to the emotions I felt 4 weeks ago today, facing a much smaller audience in Heinsheim, Germany. Heinsheim is a tiny village in the southwest of Germany, not far from Heidelberg. Heinsheim is the village where my mother was born and that she and her parents fled from in 1937 to escape the Nazis. Recently, a group of local people got together to purchase and renovate the former synagogue building located in the middle of the village. The synagogue was the place of worship of my grandfather's family for many generations. So there I stood 4 weeks ago today at the celebration of the reopening of the building as a community center, giving a speech in German. Now, that was intimidating, since I only speak basic German. But the focus of that speech was the same as the focus of my remarks today. I believe that the connections between people are what nurture us and allow us to persevere in our lives, to persist, shall we say, and to find joy in life. In my speech 4 weeks ago, I spoke about the connections between my family and the German family that lived across the street from my mother's family in Heinsheim. How the matriarch in that family maintained a strong friendship with my grandmother, and how my mother, and now my sister and I, have maintained a relationship with the younger generation. And those connections led me to a moment where I found myself giving a speech in a small German village as a representative of the Jews who had been obliterated from that village, celebrating the rebirth of the former synagogue building. So what does this have to do with WX? WX is about connections. It is about the connections that each and every member feels to the cadre of strong women who form the membership of WX. It is about the many programs that WX sponsors. As you've heard, there are scholarships for young women who then become WX mentees. There are networking events which allow us to make connections that are both personal and professional. There are the substantive programs that keep us up to date on all facets of New York City real estate. And there are philanthropic efforts, including a supportive relationship with non-traditional employment for women, which trains low-income women to join the construction trades. For me, WX is about the connections I have made through my years on the board and as chair of the programming committee. The programming committee arranges panel discussions, tours, and fireside chats. These programs provide WX members and their guests, as well as WX scholars, with the opportunity to engage in conversations about topical issues and also to network with a diverse array of professionals in the real estate industry. There are also programs that are designed specifically for our WX scholars and mentees. The success of the scholarship and mentoring programs can be measured through the large number of WX scholars who have achieved great things in the real estate industry and have become members of WX, including Laura Rappaport, Catherine Kellman, Ann Carson Blair, Lisa Kirsch, Lauren Sanders, and Jennifer Stewart. It never ceases to amaze me that every time I attend a WX event, I meet another interesting, accomplished woman, many in fields that I know very little about. There are many women who I've forged a bond with through WX. I can't name them all, we would be here all night, but I have to mention Wendy Rowden, a former WX Woman of the Year and past president of WX, who is now my dear friend, and who is the person who took me dress shopping for this event. Which is a crucial means of support. All of the women in this room know that it takes hard work and a fair amount of diplomacy for a woman to be successful in a business that is dominated by men, and law is no exception. According to a 2020 report by the National Association of Law Placement, while 47% of associates in law firms are women, only 21% of equity partners were women. As a young lawyer, I was fortunate to be an associate in a small firm where I was treated as a valued part of the team. But I had to deal with clients who told dirty jokes in meetings or men who looked past me when they were introduced to me. I am grateful that I was not sexually harassed, as were many young women of my generation. And in those days, it was assumed you would just ignore the dirty jokes and ignore the harassment. I learned how to use my height and my deep voice to command attention, so it was clear that my legal advice should be listened to. There were some opportunities I missed when I was hesitant to take on work outside of my area of expertise. Later on, I learned that my value in a meeting often went beyond my expertise. It was to focus the group on the issue at hand and lead them toward a solution. And I found that it made it so much easier when I was not the only woman in the room. At first, that was hard to find. But then I started to work with clients like Lynn Brown at NYU and Vicky Matsuuna at NYU Langone Medical Center, who are and were leaders in their institutions. And I am so fortunate that Valerie Campbell came to work at our tiny firm as a summer associate many years ago. We are now close friends and law partners, and it's meant so much to me to have her support for many years. And I'm grateful to have found WX, for which I want to thank Ann Locke, a longtime member of WX. The connections forged by WX are what allow us to persevere in the face of continuing inequities for women in the real estate industry. A 2020 Crew benchmark study found that women are only 37% of the commercial real estate industry, which is hard to believe being in this room, but that's the truth, only 37%, and that hasn't really changed over the last 15 years. There's still a large pay gap, and there are very few women who reach top positions. Only 9% of C-suite positions were occupied by women. And based on my conversations with WX members, real estate companies often have inadequate maternity leave policies, and many women are treated differently by their employers once they have children. And we've all had the experience of saying something in a meeting, and then 5 minutes later, the group adopts that idea when it's suggested by a man. Happens all the time. But we can say with certainty that things have improved substantially since WX was founded in 1988. Data from Ferguson Partners shows that in 2018, while 8 out of 10 REIT directors were men, 50% of the directors added that year were women. The AIA reported in 2018 that women partners in architectural firms increased by 18% in the last 10 years. And there were more women in construction, although they remain at 10% of workers in that field. WX is an invitation-only group of experienced women in real estate. Our board manual includes a policy to ensure professional diversity of membership, which requires relatively equal distribution of members among 18 different categories, ranging from acquisitions to capital markets to architecture, engineering, and design, and law, of course. But being an invitation-only group can lead to insularity, and that is why WX, through its Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Task Force and its membership committee, has made a commitment to reaching out to women of diverse backgrounds and experiences so that we can make WX a more inclusive organization and encourage further participation by people of diverse races and backgrounds in the real estate industry. We all know that one of the hardest things about being a professional woman is figuring out how to maintain our connections to those in our personal lives while focusing so much attention on our professional lives. My career as a land use lawyer is extremely important to me, but I would say that my proudest accomplishment in life is my daughters, Leah and Alice. Being a mother provides great joy, but our society makes it very difficult to be both a professional and a mother. I was fortunate that I was able to work part-time, or the lawyer's version of part-time, while my children were growing up, but it took a huge amount of organization and perseverance to make it work. There were times when I felt that it was all too much and achieving work-life balance was impossible. But then there were the positive moments, like one Halloween when my daughter Leah dressed up as me, complete with the suit and briefcase. And I also felt really good when Alice, during her freshman year in college, thanked me for being a good mother. The reason? Her roommates had helicopter moms who were stifling them while she and I had a close, but not too close, relationship. There's no right way to be a professional woman. Some people are able to work full-time. Others take time off when their kids are young or have elderly parents to care for. And WX gives us the support and connections to allow us to persist in our professional lives, even when we are pulled in many directions. I want to thank my friends and family sitting at table 12 for providing me with so much support over the years, even when I was too busy or too tired to pick up the phone. I want to thank my husband, who has provided unfailing support for my career and volunteer activities and continually reminds me to relax just a little. I want to thank my colleagues at Kramer Levin for furnishing me with a professional environment where I have been able to thrive. In particular, I want to thank Paul Selver, with whom I practiced law for 40 years. See, Lynn, I said it. Paul has taught me most of what I know about land use law. And I want to thank John Zuccotti, who I miss greatly. He was the model for me of what a great lawyer should be: intelligent, witty, and empathetic. He was someone who could walk into a room with two opposing parties, maybe a developer and a community group, who agreed on nothing. And in a short time, through his skills as an arbitrator, he could announce there was an agreement that worked for all parties and was good for the city of New York. And John was an example of a man who grew up in a different era, but who always listened carefully to what I had to say and treated me with the greatest respect. I want to thank John's wife, Susan Zuccotti, for being here tonight. Susan is part of the real estate world by marriage, but she's also a well-regarded historian and writer who has published a number of books regarding the Holocaust. Thank you so much, Susan. One of the best examples of the strength of WX and the persistence it inspires is the group of women who planned this gala. First, Beth Safante and Sonia Bain, who called me over 18 months ago to ask me to be the WX Woman of the Year of 2020. And the wonderful gala committee just kept going in the face of uncertainty after uncertainty caused by the pandemic. I would like to thank each of them: Lori Hutner, Alexis Michael, Pat Hauserman, Caroline Mahl, Wendy Rowden, Deputy Chair Caitlin Simon, and particularly Lauren Cahill, the chair of the Gala Committee. Right. That applause is for everybody on the committee, but Lauren, she was calm, efficient, and persistent in guiding the committee through all of the pivots of the past 18 months. She never lost her positive outlook, and it was infectious in a good way. So thank you so much, Lauren. I also want to thank Samantha Kane of the Berman Group, who undertook all of the administrative and planning tasks for this gala and did them well and always with a smile. Thank you, Sam. So thank you to all of you who are here tonight. I'm so happy that we were able to gather together to restore some of the personal personal and professional connections between us that may have gotten a little frayed over the last 18 months. And I hope this event inspires each and every one of you to create new connections with people that you've met tonight and to nurture your connections to WX. It was a difficult decision to hold an event such as this at a time like this, and I want to acknowledge all the people who, for a myriad of reasons, could not attend in person tonight. We miss you and know that you are here with us on Zoom and in spirit. We look forward to seeing everybody together next year to celebrate the WX Women of the Year of 2022. Thank you.